Hey, good afternoon. This is Nikki Burnett. I'm a functional nutritionist and my practice is Taste Life Nutrition. I practice strategic evidence-based nutritional consulting, and I want to talk a little bit today about being vegan or vegetarian. This is not a talk about whether it's right or wrong. It's not a talk about why certain people actually decide to become vegan or vegetarian. I just want to talk about the facts behind these two diets, the goods and the bads, and I'm going to give you some of my opinions on them as well. So first I'm going to give you a little bit of my own background because I think that that's important for you to know where I come from. I have been vegan, I've been vegetarian, I have tried over my life, even prior to being a nutritionist, I've tried a little bit of everything. So I know what they're about, I know what they're like, and I know the reasons that I did it. You should also know that I have my master's degree in animal science. So I'm a big advocate for animals and for the healthy and good treatment of animals while they're here. My opinion is, while they're here, we take care of them, we treat them well, we serve them well, we give them the foods that they're meant to eat. And then when it's time, when in the end, then we take care of the way that we have to kill them in order for them to feed us. So I believe that they serve us. Hi, Taylor. I didn't see your message yesterday, sorry. Anyway, I believe that they serve us in the end, so we should serve them now. And so the way that conventional treatment of animals, I think, is absolutely wrong and terrible. So I'm going to give you that right now. Okay, so people become vegan for many, many different reasons. And, what prompted this talk is I came across an article talking about being a vegan. And it also was very unbiased, kind of middle of the road, what to look for if you want to be a vegan. And so let's kind of get into this article and talk a little bit about it. A couple of the things that it says is, there are ways of replacing meat and proteins, and one of the suggestions was soy. I will never ever suggest almost never suggest soy to my clients, especially as a protein source. It's not a good source of protein. It has an enzyme in it called a trypsin inhibitor, which means it doesn't allow us to break down proteins. So we need proteins to break down to amino acids to turn into neurotransmitters, and of course muscles and that kind of thing. So we don't want much soy in the diet. The soy that I don't mind is going to be something like tempeh, which is a fermented soy. Tempeh, or any fermented soy really, as long as it's organic. So there's tempeh and miso, tamari, and natto. All of those things are great. The processing, the fermentation of it gets rid of that trypsin inhibitor, and I think they can be beneficial. And for some people that have certain needs when it comes to needing the phytoestrogens in soy, some people need those, not everybody. So we want to be really careful with that as well. So, but using it as a protein, whether it's a protein powder or as the raw bean or any of those things, I don't think is a good idea. Another thing about, and this article stated it, but another thing is there are lots of people that just think, okay, there's not, maybe don't put enough research behind what it means to be vegan or vegetarian. And so they still go toward the processed foods. We can have our junk food vegans and our junk food vegetarians, just like we can have our junk food Western diet plans, I guess. So staying away from the processed foods, no matter what, is a good idea. The baked goods and the cakes, they may not have eggs and lard or whatever in them, but it doesn't mean they're healthy, and the sugar is still sugar no matter what. So going toward whole foods always, no matter if you're vegan, vegetarian, if you're pescatarian, eating a normal diet, whatever it is, we always want to look for the whole foods. Okay, let's look into this a little bit more. Let's see, fortified foods are a big problem. So fortified foods are things, they're a lot of times, you know, the orange juice or even the milk, or you've got your soy milks and your almond milks, and they fortify them with calcium and B12 and iron and so many things that are just really unnecessary. And more than that, they are there's a lot of them are synthetic and they're not healthy. We don't need the extra calcium in our diet. That's a whole other, actually I think I've done a Facebook video on that already, so if I can find it I'll try to post it. But we don't need the extra calcium in our diet, and we don't need, you know, so often what we see is B12. B12 can be really damaging if it's the wrong form of B12, and I see it all the time, and it makes me crazy. And we think, oh, it's got nutrients in it, these are things that we need. Well, it can actually be more damaging than it can be good. So let's talk a second about B12. B12 comes in several different forms. The B12 is called Cobalamin. So the unnatural and cheap form is called cyanocobalamin. That's what you'll see the most. Then you'll have methylcobalamin, oh no, I forgot. Methylcobalamin, adenosylcobalamin, and hydroxycobalamin. All necessary for different processes in the body. One's for mitochondrial function, one is the active form, and depending on your needs, you'll want you want a certain cobalamin for a certain need. And if you get the wrong one, even if it's a good one, the methylcobalamin, if you have anxiety problems, then the methylcobalamin potentially can help, can create more anxiety. So we just want to be really careful with the type of nutrients, not just cobalamin, but with the type of nutrients that we're taking in. Another thing about the cyanocobalamin, there's a cyanide molecule attached to it. And so what happens, we think of B12 as going in and giving us energy, when actually what it does is it goes into the electron transport chain of the mitochondria, which is our little energy source. That's where energy is created. And it will shut down the electron transport chain. So if we're looking for B12 for energy, then the cyanocobalamin is not the answer, because it's basically going to do just the opposite. So think about this in your food, in your vitamins, for your dog food. I see it in dog food all the time. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to more in this article. It talks about how it's somewhat easier to make better choices with your foods. I think that's kind of true. You know, if you're wanting to eat good, healthy, whole foods, and you stick with good, healthy vegetables and fruits and grains, if you can handle them, gluten-free grains, of course, not everybody can. And with legumes, not everybody can handle legumes. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian and legumes and grains are giving you problems, what are you going to eat? It makes it really difficult. And so these are all things to think about. But bringing in more whole foods is always a good idea, whether you eat meat or not. This is what we need to really pay attention to no matter what we're doing, is buying and eating real whole foods for us and for our animals. Moving on, it can give your immune system a boost, sure, but anytime you change your diet to a whole food, healthy diet, and I would say even if you eat meat, a plant-based diet, because the bulk of your diet should be vegetables. Vegetables. Your plate should be full of vegetables, and then have some nice fat and some nice meat if you decide to eat meat. If you decide you want some grains and you can handle gluten-free grains, that's great too. But the bulk of your plate should be veggie. And I don't know if I said fruit, but fruit is good. Some people don't need fruit, but fruit is fine. But we want more veg than we want fruit. So then it moves into, there are certain key nutrients to watch out for, which is true. There are certain nutrients that we can only get from meat. And then it talks about how in order to supplement those nutrients, to get to purchase fortified foods, which I have a real problem with, as we just talked about. So the first one it says is B12. We don't get B12. There are two ways that our bodies get B12. From meat and from our gut bacteria. Our gut bacteria will produce B12. Now, if our gut bacteria are out of whack, we're not getting B12. If we're not eating meat, we're not getting B12. And this is a really, really important nutrient. So getting it from Fortified Foods is a bad idea. If you want to be vegan or vegetarian, then supplement. But supplement with the right supplement. And it takes some study, or of course going to somebody that knows, to know which one that you need. But be very, very careful with fortified foods. I just avoid fortified foods. A lot of fortified foods also have folic acid in them. Folic acid is synthetic. Folic acid can create a lot of problems with certain people with genetic SNPs. If you've heard me say that term before, they're called polymorphisms. If it can create problems in people with these certain polymorphisms, and so we want to be really aware of that. And you've got folic acid in everything. It's in breads and pastas, and I think milk and orange juice. I'm not really sure, but anyway, it's in a lot of foods. And folic acid's a bad idea. If I didn't already say it, you want to look for folate. Same with your multivitamin and your B complex vitamins. You want folate. You pregnant ladies, folate. Just something came on in my house. Interesting. Okay. Calcium is another one they're talking about. You can get from bok choy, broccoli, and kale. I think that's great. You're getting calcium from good, normal, natural, healthy, wholesome foods. Perfect. But supplementing calcium, not a good idea. Fortified foods, not a good idea. Vitamin D, again, it's talking about, it does say sunlight, but it says milk alternatives like soy and rice and breakfast cereals. None of those are a good plan. So most of us are deficient in vitamin D. That potentially can be because of genetics. It can be because we're just not getting enough sun, but there are a bunch of reasons. This is why I like to look at genetics to understand what's going on inside the body. Why are we low on vitamin D? Potentially because of genetics. Again, soy, not a good idea. Any of those fortified milks and cereals. It also says omega-3 fatty acids. Now, it says omega-3 fatty acids from chia, flax, walnuts, canola oil, and soy. If you know me at all, you're going to, well, I just said soy, super bad idea. Canola oil is a trans fat. It's highly, highly inflammatory. You always want to stay away from canola oil. I don't care where it's from. I don't care if it's organic. Stay away from canola oil. Chia and flax, those are great, and I appreciate them. But here's the thing with getting omega-3s from plants. The omega-3 from plant is a form called ALA. That form has to be then converted into DHA and EPA. So if you know DHA and EPA, those are from fish oils. So the conversion of ALA over to DHA and EPA is a really, really inefficient conversion. And for those that have just the wrong genetic SNPs, it may not happen at all. So we use the EPA and the DHA. We don't use the ALA. It's converted. So you're not really getting good omega-3s from vegetable or from nuts and seeds or from vegetables. You do krill. So you can do krill and I've just lost it. There's something else that you can get some pretty good omega-3 from. But krill is a shrimp. What is it? It's an algae, I think, where you can get good omega-3. I don't use it too often. But that's a vegetable or a plant-based source where you can actually get good omega-3 or EPA, DHA. So chia and flax, great for some good phytonutrients, great for fiber, really great for fiber, not great for your omega-3s. Iron from fermented foods, that's great. Miso and tempeh. Both are soy-based, but remember they're fermented, and as long as they're organic, those are good sources of soy. A couple of other things. What they didn't hit on is carnitine. Carnitine is what's considered a conditionally essential amino acid. And what that means is our body has the ability, or is supposed to have the ability, to create carnitine. Outside of the body, the only place that we can get carnitine from is from meat. So, just like with what was I saying? It was just like with the omega-3. Just like with the omega-3, if you don't have the ability to create carnitine in your body due to genetic SNPs, then you're not getting any carnitine. And you have to have carnitine to build muscle. You have to have carnitine to take fat, pull it, this is the only amino acid that will take fat, pull it into the mitochondria so it can be used by the electron transport chain, by the mitochondria to produce energy. If the fat doesn't get in because you don't have the carnitine, then it can sit outside the cell and it can oxidize. That creates inflammation, it creates potential carcinogenic situation, and it's not stuff that we want to deal with. So we wanted that you can look at your genetics, or we can look at your genetics to see if you're not able to utilize the carnitine that you have. We can look at other tests. There are tests that we can do that look at the amount of carnitine, and I see it low quite a lot. So knowing why it's low and then fixing that is a great idea. Let's see. Another thing to take into consideration, and this will be my last point, is the individual. We're all very, very different. And going back to genetics again, there are certain genotypes that naturally require higher amounts of protein. They also require higher amounts of fat and lower carbohydrates. So I am a person, I require a high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein lifestyle. I hate the word diet, but a lifestyle, because of my genotype. And I know this because I've tested. I also know this because I've done keto, which is high fat, moderate protein. I've done the vegan and the vegetarian and the whole thing. I know how my body responds because I'm my own best guinea pig. So, but looking at my genetics, I understand what my body needs, and so that's what I go with. And I'm going to tell you what's interesting. I see more people that are middle of the line or middle of the road, where they need moderate protein, moderate carb, moderate fat, than I see those that need higher fat, which is really interesting to me, because I would assume I would see more people that require higher fat. Anyway, keeping all of those things in mind, if you are a vegetarian or a vegan and you're not feeling well, think about why you might not be feeling well. Think about things that you might want to supplement. I get not wanting to eat animals. Like I said, I'm a huge animal advocate. I'm very careful with the meat that I feed my own dogs, but they're carnivores. They have to have meat. I want to know where the animal's from the best that I can and how it's treated. But I also truly believe, based on the science, that we require meat as human beings. Again, some more than others. I actually am a genotype that requires probably very little meat, but I do require meat. And so just be aware. That's all I ask, that you be aware of your body type, who you are, listen to what your body's telling you and what your needs are. Be very careful about supplementation and fortification. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can post questions below. You can go to my website. I will post this article that I found below in the comments section. So if there's anything that I can do, or if you have any questions, just let me know. Y'all enjoy your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.